Today, I will explain the process of photosynthesis in plant cells. Without photosynthesis, it would not be possible for the majority of autotrophs, or organisms that create their own energy, to exist. These organisms include green plants like trees, bushes, tomato plant stems, etc., as well as many types of algae. Also, without photosynthesis, there would be no way for more complex organisms like humans that must consume other organisms for energy to exist. Photosynthesis occurs when 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water combine the use of light energy to create 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. The idea is that all the energy that goes into the reaction to produce the glucose will still be present and can be used later for energy when broken down. At the same time, all of the matter that is chemically altered must be accounted for. For example, the same amount of atoms in is the same amount out. This can be explained by the law of conservation of energy and of mass. Photosynthesis occurs in 2 parts: the light-dependent reaction, which is what we will begin with, and the Calvin cycle, which will follow. The light-dependent reaction occurs in the phospholipid bilayer membrane of the thylakoids, which are located in the chloroplast. They specifically occur in photosystems, which are groups of pigments that absorb light for the reaction to occur. In photosystem 2, photons of light are absorbed and used to excite or energize the electrons. After the electron is energized, it is sent off to the electron transport chain. Since the photosystem lost the electrons, it breaks water apart into electrons, oxygen that is released out of the chloroplast, and hydrogen ions that are released into the thylakoid. This is called photolysis. Essentially, the photons excite the electrons in photosystem 2 and cause those electrons to be sent out. Then, lost electrons are replaced by electrons from the broken down water molecule to continue the cycle. This is only possible with light energy. In the electron transport chain, the electrons are taken to photosystem 1. As they travel through the electron transport chain, they release energy. That energy is used to pump hydrogen ions across or in and out of the membrane of the thylakoid. The energy used to pump these ions across the membrane is captured in the pump protein and is used to help attach a phosphate to adenosine phosphate, ADP, to form adenosine triphosphate, ATP. In photosystem 1, the electron from the transport chain is re-energized from the photons and is then sent to another electron transport chain. At the end of this transport chain, the electrons are combined with NADP plus energy carrier and the hydrogen ions to create NADPH, another high energy carrier. This synthesis of NADPH and ATP, as well as the movement of electron from photosystem 2 to 1, will occur as long as there is light energy that can be absorbed. The ATP and NADPH from the light-dependent reactions enter into the Calvin cycle, which is located in the stroma. They help produce the long-term energy storage of glucose, since ATP and NADPH are not stable enough to survive for longer than several hours or days. In the Calvin cycle, the energy from the ATP and NADPH is used up to create glucose, and results in the release of the de-energized energy carriers from NADP plus and ADP. The NADP plus and ADP are sent to the light-dependent reactions to be re-energized, and then, in turn, sent back to the Calvin cycle as ATP and NADPH. This cycle perpetuates as long as there is light energy to convert the NADP plus and ADP to NADPH and ATP. The Calvin cycle occurs in the stroma of the chloroplast due to the large size of the glucose molecule. It starts when carbon dioxide is taken in and reacts with a 5-carbon molecule to create several smaller 3-carbon molecules. These 3-carbon molecules are then modified by the energy from the ATP and NADPH to create triose phosphate. Next, the hydrogen in the NADPH is used to turn some of the triose phosphate into starches that can be broken down into glucose. The rest of the triose phosphate is then modified by enzymes back into the original 5-carbon molecule that will react with the carbon dioxide. As a general overview, the water is taken into the thylakoid and acted upon by photons. This causes a chain of events to occur that results in the creation of oxygen, gas that is released out of the cell and chloroplast, ATP, and NADPH. These energy carriers are sent to the Calvin cycle. In the Calvin cycle, the carbon dioxide, ATP, and NADPH is used to make glucose and starches through several chemical processes that change the carbon molecules to starches. In the end, the ATP and NADPH, which have now been reduced to NADP plus and ADP, are sent back to the light-dependent reactions to continue this photosynthesis reaction. Thank you for listening. This lecture was created, drawn, audited, and edited by Nethmi H, Anna Maines, Tim Russell, and Anthony Potchernikov.